So an author gets up and writes a page even when they don't feel inspired, because that's how they get, for example,
right.
Or like a podcaster sits down and you just start interviewing the people that are available until you're able to book the guests that you really want to speak to.
Right, exactly. And when that happens, when you write what happens then is that you're writing a new story, and your brain kind of stops using your past to predict your future, and it kind of starts to take the present moment and your new identity that you are choosing to help predict your future behavior. And so it's super powerful.
I love that. All right, what's the second? That was great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the second reason why most people procrastinate is fear. A lot of times we are actually subconsciously afraid of success. And I think this is a big reason why a lot of people stay stuck, is that we are actually subconsciously afraid of what it might look like if we succeed at doing it.
Interesting.
And for me personally, so I'm actually about to launch a podcast. By the time this episode comes out, it may or may not be already launched, but when I was procrastinating filming my podcast, and me being me, I sit down and I analyze my mind. Like, why am I procrastinating starting to film this podcast? And what I found was that I was subconsciously afraid of being seen in sort of a more vulnerable way, because long form content is a lot more vulnerable than a 1-minute reel on Instagram. Like, you're not really you in that short of a period of time. But in long form content, people can really see you. And so that was sort of the fear that I uncovered for myself. But yeah, and I think this is another reason why I tell people all the time, like a lot of people say, get specific about your goals. But I also say, get specific about your fears, because your fears, they can have control over you when you don't know what they are. But when you identify them, labeling them, well, that activates the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, they sort of have this kind of seesaw relationship where when one activity in one goes up, activity in the other goes down. And so when you label your emotions, you label the fears that you have, you're actually giving yourself your power back. You're activating the prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO of your brain. It's sort of the boss of your brain. And so kind of getting specific about your fears, I would say, is the way to overcome that version of stuckness. And I think that's a really powerful activity to do if somebody were feeling stuck.
How did you get so specific and define your own fear? I love that you shared what you were worried about and this whole idea that people are scared of success.
Yeah.
How did you come upon that? Like, what process did it take? What reflection did you do? How did you identify them? I love what you said about identifying your goals is important, but actually knowing your fears is equally as important, if not more. How do you do that?
Yeah. So I think for me, I have this saying called take it all the way to the end. And so allow yourself to go on the journey or the path all the way to the end. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, if I go and I film this podcast, my goal is to have a top podcast in the world, right? So if I'm having a top podcast in the world, what might that look like? Oh, that means that I'm setting myself up to be seen more and maybe have more hate and maybe have more criticism and judgment and all that. And just seeing myself write that down, I was like, okay, well, if my brain is highlighting that as, oh, if you go and start a podcast, you're going to have more hate and face more criticism, then it might try to keep me safe from that. And that's really what that is your brain is just trying to keep you safe. And so that's why identifying your fears can be so powerful. And so, yeah, I would say if you're trying to identify what your fears are, I would just take the goal, whatever it is that you're trying to do, all the way to the end. Like if it's the top podcast or if it's the best-selling book or if it's your business or even a relationship, right? Like a lot of people in relationships, like you're afraid of relying on someone or being dependent on someone or really fully being open and vulnerable with someone. And honestly, just identifying that as the first step and getting super clear on that, because when you get clear on that, then you can rewrite the story of exactly like you said. Yes, it's true. Being more vulnerable and being seen might equal more judgment or criticism, but it might also equal, and to the same extent, if not more love and more support. So, and you have to identify it first to give yourself the chance to even rewrite that fear.
Yeah, I love the idea of take it all the way to the end. That's a great one. It's a great way of actually getting really clear on exactly what's tripping you up. And I love what you just said there, that actually when you come up with it, you realize your brain was just trying to keep you safe.
Yeah.
It was actually just trying to help you because it was scared of that. It wasn't that you weren't good enough, or it wasn't that you weren't smart enough, or it wasn't that you can't develop the skills. It was just trying to keep you safe.
Yeah. And I think when we think about our brain trying to keep us safe, that's a really big reason why the brain tries to keep us kind of in our comfort zone, right? But it's super important to recognize and acknowledge that any sort of growth happens outside of our comfort zones. Like, I would not be in the position where I am today if I didn't take delusional level risks and leaps of faith. And so it's really a requirement to achieving or receiving or having whatever it is that we want. And so, yeah, getting really clear on our fears and taking it all the way. I take it all the way to the end applies to that. It also applies to limiting beliefs as well. Like, take it all the way to the end. See what comes up for you. And also, yeah, I think because I've had students, I had a specific student ask me, she was struggling with sand volleyball, beach volleyball. And she was like, I had this fear. And I was like, take it all the way to the end. Visualize it maybe. You know, I don't think I've ever heard anyone tell people like, visualize your fears. But if it's safe for you and you're not going to like have any sort of physical reaction, like visualize it and see what comes up for you and see like, what is it really that you're afraid of? And then you can give yourself the chance to kind of rewrite that story.
Yeah. What's number 3?
Okay, so there's an identity mismatch, or there's maybe some underlying fear behind it. And then number 3 is really more of a scientific kind of simple, straightforward thing, and it's cheap dopamine. It's everywhere, and society it's everywhere. Cheap dopamine, social media, it's all over the place. And like fast food, binging, Netflix, whatever it is. That's number 3 is cheap dopamine. And it's a dream. Dopamine, I always say, like, dopamine doesn't care about your dreams. Dopamine just cares about what you automate and what you repeat. And so it's going to keep you doing that. And